Well, it's Alaska, and we've got a special guest in the studio, Brad Schmitz, Alaska English Adventures. How you doing?
I am great. How are you?
You can't have a deeper voice than I am. Can we lift that up higher, please? None of the guests can have a deeper voice than I.
Okay.
Yeah. Listen to that.
I know, it's nice.
Now I'm intimidated.
I like it.
Now I'm intimidated.
Uh-oh, sorry about that. I didn't mean to do anything.
Brad, how long have you lived in Alaska?
Well, I lived permanently in the Anchorage area for 12 years.
Okay.
But I first came to Alaska, the summer of 2000.
Okay.
And
For what? What were you doing? What brought you up here? I was like, you know what? I need to spend some time in Alaska.
Well, I had a buddy sleeping on my couch in Boise, Idaho, and I was a student at Boise State University, and I'd spent a couple summers in North Carolina in 98, 99.
Okay.
And he wanted to go to Alaska. So he convinced me, and he had a little station wagon. We were going to drive up together. And he had a job lined up at the McKinley Princess Lodge, right, in Trapper Creek.
Tourism. Okay, so you have a
Correct.
tourism gig, all right. That's common.
He was going to wait tables in the Cub Cafe. We drove all the way up. I was in Anchorage at the Ocano Inn down on 4th Avenue.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. He didn't know it at the time, but
No, it's still not. I bet I'm guessing it's not changed at all.
I've been in there.
The sheets are the same. Oh, have they? Okay.
Yeah. But I ended up there for a week, and I was like, this isn't quite taking off for me. So I talked to Jeremy, and I got lined up on a job at the McKinley Princess Lodge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was up there for 2.5 seasons through about the middle of 2002. And unfortunately, halfway through my third season, it didn't quite work out so well. And I ended up hitchhiking to Fairbanks, Alaska.
All right.
And
let's go farther north.
Yeah. I mean, I could go south to Anchorage, but I only had a couple $100 in cash. I didn't have a car. I could go that way to Talkeetna, but it was just a bunch of hippies, and there wasn't much future there, I didn't think.
Nothing wrong with hippies.
Yeah, I love hippies and myself. But then Fairbanks had a university, and I went,
UAF, yeah.
I should probably head that direction. So I did. I ended up in Fairbanks, made some of the best friends in the whole world when I was there. I started my social worker career in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I was in Fairbanks for maybe a year and a half. Then I moved out to Galena because I wanted to check out village life. I didn't have any kids or debts or anything back then. And I got a job as the Indian Child Welfare Act director with the Louden Tribal Council. That was the summer of 2003. So I was out there for about 6 months. Then I ended up in Nenana. I was a tutor at their high school for a couple of months. Then I ended up back in Fairbanks. And then I left in, May of 2004 is when I scooted on down the road, kind of a thing.
To where? Did you come back to Anchorage or you left the state?
No, I went back to Idaho.
Okay.
To go back to my home state. And then I was working on a big veterans project at the time, and a goal was to make it to Washington, D.C. for the opening ceremony of the World War II Memorial, which I did. I actually made it to D.C. for the opening ceremony. Well, it was on Sunday of that Memorial Day weekend. And then shortly after being there, by mid-July, I found myself in South Korea. I had a friend from my university that hooked me up on a job teaching English.
Whoa.
I was in D.C. I woke up and I was in South Korea. That's like an Ambien. I took an Ambien and I woke up
Yeah. Well, back then I crossed the country like 4 or 5 times, and I wanted to do a 50-state road trip back then to film a documentary movie about freedom in my country. This is just after 9/11. I had just graduated from college. I had some cash in my pocket. And unfortunately, that didn't go anywhere. But my friend Betty Solis back at Boise State, she was bugging me for months, like, Brad, you should come to Korea. She was teaching English in Korea. She's like, you should come to Korea. There's a lot of money, et cetera, you can make here. So I ended up in D.C. for the World War II Memorial. Then I eventually ended up back in Idaho, and I got hired by the Single Way Education Center in Icheon City, Korea.
Wow.
And I flew, I must have flown either Boise or it must have been Spokane to San Francisco, and then San Francisco to Seoul. And I ended up in Korea. I was there for about 8.5 months altogether.
How was that?
It was an adventure. I was, I don't know what I was. I was 27, 28 years old. There was a lot of other young Western people that were in a similar age and stuff from all over the world, England, Australia, New Zealand, that were there to teach English. And I got fired from my original school. So normally you have a visa to work for 1 year. And if you get fired, you're out of the country. But luckily they didn't give me my visa. So I ended up getting a job in Boondong, South Korea, at a place called J&D Elite Academy.
Oh, good old Boondong, yeah.
Yeah, Boondong.
Who hasn't spent a weekend in Boondong? Your 20s and my 20s are nothing alike. This is so fascinating of what you did in your 20s. Usually 20s involve, hangovers and, all the other stuff. But man, you traveled. So South Korea, now you're in South Korea. Then what happens?
Well, I made friends with a buddy named Raymond, who was a Muslim man from Egypt. He was in Korea getting his PhD in audiology. This is a 100% true story. Like, you would not believe it, but it's a 100% true story. Anyway, he and I became buddies, and we were studying like the gospel together and just became pals. And right before I left, he wrote a little 1.5-page paper, probably from one magazine article in Seoul, Korea, but he titled it English Frenzy in Korea. And it went on to share the number of hundreds or thousands of English schools that were in the country at that time. This is over 20 years ago, but hundreds of millions of dollars that country was spending for their young people to learn English.
Wow.
And being in their country, I learned that, South Korea has been attacked by North Korea, by China, by Japan for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it was really fascinating to be in their country to see that really hard work and like learning English was a way for Korea to become a global contender, if you will. But anyway, Raymond wrote this little paper. Off I went. I came back to the United States, and eventually I read that paper, and I'm sure I was back in Boise, Idaho, and I thought, if I could start a company that would combine outdoor adventure with ESL, English as a second language education, I could make $1 million. That is what I said. This is over 20 years ago. And I knew 100% that it would be in Alaska. Like, no doubt, it wouldn't be in Idaho or anywhere in the lower 48.
You were going to do this in Alaska.
Correct. So that became like a deep core value, way deep in my heart and soul, wherever that was. Boy, that was in 2005. Life goes on. I was here and there and this and that. And then I met my wife in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, back in like July of 2007. And we started a relationship, this and that. We got married in the fall of 2009. And my son was born shortly later. And when he was 8 months old, we moved to Australia. My wife got accepted to go to graduate school.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, we just moved. I mean, good Lord. I mean, I've lived in other states, but, suddenly we're living in Australia.
Yeah, it was...
Blimey bloke. Is that Australia? No. Crikey.
Aussie. Oi. That's kind of their cheer.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I know most of my Australian stuff comes from Outback Steakhouse commercials.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's where my knowledge comes. All right. So you're in Australia now with a family.
Correct. With Brad Jr., who was 8 months old.
You named him Brad Jr.
Yeah, if you can believe
nice.
that.
Yeah. That's classy.
And then... So my wife, Helena, she was getting her master's degree in environmental toxicology and studying oysters at the University of Canberra. And we were there for about 2.5 years. One of my jobs I had was tutoring English to women that were childcare providers at childcare centers around the city. And it was run by I think it was called Southside Community Services. But I would go and tutor these gals like a couple hours during the week.
So people in Australia, there's people that didn't know
Correct.
English even in Australia.
Well, and they all spoke fluent English, but they were like getting their homework done and being able to find written English to understand the thoughts that they were reading and processing those and putting them back in homework. That was a big challenge for these women. Anyway, so I'm doing that. And I said, you know what, Brad, you're going to start this company, Alaska. And I hate sitting around waiting for my life to happen. So I organized a weekend getaway to Merimbula, which is a beautiful little beach town down in southeast New South Wales. It's about a maybe 2.5 hour drive from Canberra. And we went down there, myself, Helena, and Brad Jr. We were down there just as a family vacation spot. And we would be walking out on these perfect sandy beaches for 5 miles at least. And we were the only human beings on those beaches. I mean, you could go to Hawaii or wherever you want to go, but like where we were at was just absolute heaven.
Did you miss a sign or something that said, toxic beach or something?
No, like we ended up in a primo location. So anyway, I took a few of my students and their partners and stuff down to Merimbula. We had our very first like English weekend, for a couple of days. And it was like, cool, like the motor was running, or we built, wheels on it. We came back to the United States, moved to Anchorage in August of 13. And then it took a few years. I'm a dad and getting things going and all these things. And then it was in January of 2017 that myself and my good buddy Sam Barney, who lives up in Fairbanks, he's a teacher in Fairbanks, we actually started the company as a 2-person LLC called Alaska English Adventures. And we had no idea what we were doing. I was a social worker at Yukon Tribal Council. He was a teacher, and we have this thing in our heart to start an international tour company. We became an LLC. He started building a website, just AlaskaEnglishAdventures.com. I became a member of Visit Anchorage. I'm like doing everything I possibly could, based on advice that people were giving me back then and stuff.
How old are you? So you're probably what, early 30s now, 34?
Late 30s, maybe.
Late 30s, okay.
Like probably around there. And boy, let me remember. Then we kind of have to fast forward a little bit to COVID. Like nothing was going on. I didn't have any customers nor anything. It was all just getting to know people and kind of figuring out how tourism works.
You were networking.
Correct. Yeah. And I met some amazing people like Jen Chen with Skylar Travel. She was a huge friend. And Rocky Kim with a Korean company. Yep. A gal named Rose that was European Alaskan Tours. She was really, really nice to me as well. So a lot of nice people in the community.
Was it called Alaska English Adventures? Was that the company? I mean, is that what the original name was when you two started it?
Yep. It was Alaska English Adventures. And then when COVID hit in March of 20, it didn't really hurt me. Like I heard a lot of other like one-man LLCs or one-person LLCs. A lot of them died because of COVID, even with extra help and this and that. But I had no customers at this point. I always had a full-time job to pay my bills. And then it really kind of started in June of 2020. I was hanging out in these ESL chat rooms on Facebook with teachers all over the world, just kind of whatever, chatting away. But I saw a post from a teacher, I think her name was Lucy, in a school in Emden, Germany. And she was looking for English-speaking middle schoolers to be pen pals with her class. And I didn't have any pen pals myself growing up. But I saw her post and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I should say hello to her. So, hey, I live in Alaska. I run this company. We're trying to get kids to come over here and go rafting and fishing and hiking and glacier hopping, yada, yada, while they're working on English. And in the end, I did a cold call to the Boys and Girls Club in Seward, Alaska, and just talked to the executive director. Hey, would you guys be interested in making some buddies in Germany? But I had no idea what I was doing. And I don't even know if they ever made much of a connection with those kids. But in the end, I got an Alaska postcard, right, from either Walmart or Fred Meyer or something. And I wrote every 30 of her kids their own Alaska postcard. And off they went in the mail with an international stamp. And I was like, there you go. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
And I got an email from this teacher about 3 weeks later. And most of my communication with these teachers all over the world is just through Facebook, mainly. It's like Facebook, WhatsApp, or email back then.
See, a good thing about Facebook there, not all the negative stuff. There are good things about social media and Facebook.
So let me remember. So she got all of these. Every single letter that I mailed ended up at her school on the same exact day. It's just like 2 sentences. Like, Brad, you'll never believe this. 30 postcards showed up. Now, if you ever go to Walmart or Fred Meyer, an Alaska postcard is like Northern Lights, it's Denali, it's a moose or a bear. Most of the time.
Usually something like that.
Most of the time. That's kind of the combo. Yeah. But with her response, I was not expecting that kind of a response. And it was absolutely overwhelming to feel this love and this amazement, that this woman in Germany felt. So I kept trying to chase her for several months, and I lost contact with her and this and that. But then I kept kind of hanging out in these chat rooms, and it was actually really amazing. This is another kind of side story, but
normally if you're hanging out in a chat room, it's usually some weird things are going on.
This is legit, bro.
Sometimes I'm just, But this is a good chat room.
I met a teacher named Daniels Oken, who was a teacher in Istanbul, Turkey at the time. Really nice guy. We started doing some Zoom calls together, just getting to know each other. He was from Africa. I don't remember which country in Africa, but he was a real nice guy, becoming buddies and whatever. And then one of those school years, I first hooked him up with kids with Sam Barney, my buddy up in Fairbanks. So they kind of started doing a little bit of a pen pal thing, and it was okay, but they kind of lost contact. It wasn't too well put together or anything. But then fast forwarding, it was February of 2023, right? As we remember the earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria.
That's right.
That was absolutely devastating. Yeah. So I heard about that on the news, and I got a hold of Daniels. He was okay. And then I had another teacher in Antalya, Turkey, this gal named Bursan. She was okay. But I thought, I need to do something to help them out. So it was like February 20th, I organized a fundraising party at the Workshop Art Studio down on Huffman. And we got like everybody out there donated pizzas, and Taco King gave some free tacos, and I hustled up free donations from cars. They donated like $70 of like non-soda, sparkling water drinks and all this stuff. But we had a party for Salih, and we wrote him out a bunch of cards and all kinds of stuff, you know, for our friends in Turkey. We raised $200, right, from this little party. It took me $80. I think it was $80 to mail this box to Daniels. So I sent him $120 on Western Union. And I was like, Daniels, you can do whatever you want with this money, bro. I'm sorry, it's only $120. But in the end, he gave all of this money to a young man named Salih, who was 14 years old at the time. And he lost both of his parents and many, many of his extended family in this earthquake. Wow. And I was like, bro, like, I'll sell my car and my house, you know, for that kid, if that's what it takes. Anyway, so he gets the money, and my mom actually is a retired quilting gal up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and she makes really beautiful quilts. She normally mails them to me over the years, like many at a time. I've given a lot away to families.
How many quilts do you have at home?
Oh, you know, like dozens and dozens. Yeah.
They're great though. I mean, I love a good quilt. You can't beat a good quilt.
So earlier, I would give them out to families that we were supporting at CITC. But I had just gotten a box of like 6 of these really beautiful baby quilts. They're really gorgeous for little babies. So in this box, I mailed all these baby quilts, a bunch of cards, like Alaska stickers, whatever, to Daniels. And then he gave all of it to this kid, Salih. And then $120 ended up with Salih. And along this process, Daniels is like, you know, Brad, I think Salih should go to university in the United States. And if he could do that, right, if somehow that could happen. And I just made it like a personal commitment to have 10 grand put in the bank for this kid.
Wow.
And, you know, that was... Boy, that's like 2.5 years ago now. And I did not know Salih at this time, right? I had no connection to him on social media or anything.
Other than this really sad story, obviously.
Correct. That all that happened. So over the following 2 years, I got to know Salih on Instagram finally, and would send him messages and this and that. And about a year ago, I came into a little bit of money. I cashed out some of my retirement that I had stashed away. And I told Salih, it's like, Salih, I could send you $5,000 right now today. If you really need it, I will send it to you like right now today. And he goes, Brad, just calm down, bro. He's like, I'm doing okay financially. You know, thank you so much for all your love over these years and these care packages. He has an Alaska flag filled with autographs from friends and stuff. So he was really cool about it, you know, and I didn't have 10 grand. Like I couldn't match my promise, to be honest with you. I'm a poor working fellow, you know.
I could have said no.
And
but Grady was in a, you know, obviously he handled it very well.
Correct.
That much devastation in his life. He's handled it really, really well.
And that $5,000 actually paid for me to go to Kenya in February. So all the little pieces and parts kind of fit together.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Of course, what an amazing story, all that to get to hear. So what are you doing now? Now you're taking the Iditarod. So for people that don't know what the Iditarod, it's a big Alaskan race with dogs and sleds and mushers. And usually most people know at least something about it. But it's a big marathon that we do every winter in the beginning of March. So and you talk about Kenya, Africa, couldn't be probably 2 more different places on Earth, right?
Yes, by 100%.
You know,
100%,
Kenya,
I would agree with that.
And Alaska. Yep. So how did you bring those two together?
Well, back when the whole Pen Pal program started, right? It started with this teacher in Germany. And a little side note, now it's expanded where I have partners in 25 countries all over the world. And I hook them up with kids all over Alaska. Homer, Petersburg, Fairbanks, Eagle River, Anchorage, like Hooper Bay. So that's all out there, right, and happening. But along this line, during COVID, I met Martha Awidi. She was an English teacher at the Sheep Education Center in Nairobi, Kenya. And real nice gal, you know, just good vibes. And her and I were just getting to know each other online and this and that.
You seem you're pretty good at judging people right away.
Well,
if you're on chat rooms all the time, you have to be. No,
but these are legit chat rooms.
I'm just kidding. But I mean, you have to. I mean, especially in this line of work. I mean, there's people that are trying to take advantage and things like that. You must have a pretty good read on people, knowing who's legit and okay, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, and the more contacts I've made all over the world, people know people around different places. So
when they say it's a small world, they are not kidding. Yeah.
Correct. And in these like pen pal chat rooms. A lot of these English teachers, are interconnected, even though we're from very different places in the world.
And millions, miles and miles and miles away. Yeah.
But with Martha, the neat story about these kids is that 2 school years ago, I hooked up these kids in Kenya with kids down in Homer at Homer Middle School. I worked with this amazing teacher named Gia Baker since COVID started, and I've hooked her kids up. Boys started with like Sweden and 1 year with Hungary, 2 years ago with Kenya. Last year they made friends. I hooked them up with a teacher in Norway and a teacher in Ukraine. So I'm connecting, like Homer has just knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. And Gia is just this amazing teacher.
They got behind it.
And Gia Baker is such an amazing teacher. Like, she's just amazing. So,
wow.
So kids right here in Kenya were pen pals with kids in Homer 2 years ago. And then I saw on Find All of the Things, a local Facebook page for Anchorage folks, a gal named Paula put out a post, it must have been in February sometime of 24. And she just said, hey, I'm a volunteer on the Iditarod race at a checkpoint way up I know him somewhere. And if your kid wants to write a note of encouragement to a dog musher, go to iditarod.com, pick out your musher, write out a little note, this and that. And she said, you could either drop them off at the box at the Lakefront Hotel or get them to me, and then I'll take them with. So I was like, hey, how you doing? My name's Brad. I just introduced myself. I work with a bunch of kids all over the world. Can I open this door for these kids? And it was really beautiful. In the end, a class in Poland, a class of kids in Turkey, and then 25 of these kids in Nairobi all wrote notes to dog mushers on the Iditarod Trail. So the teachers emailed them to me. I printed them out. I cut them out individually, and I actually, do all this stuff and everything to get them all ready. I gave them to Paula, and it took like 2 to 3 weeks after the race was over, but I finally heard back from her, and she's like, okay, Brad, they ended up in the hands of the mushers. So I'm the middleman that sends this like a missile of love to the middle of Nairobi, Kenya. And again, these messages was like, I think the roof of the Sheep Education Center just exploded and like went all the way to the moon and back, kind of a thing.
And these are third world. I mean, they have nothing.
Correct. They don't have anything. Comparatively, of course, speaking to the benefits we have in our society.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they don't even have drinking water.
Correct.
Things that we take for granted. So something like this, something to look forward to.
Correct. So where are we at in the story? So Martha, at the end of March, she says, Brad, we want to come to Alaska next year for the Iditarod. Now, if Martha Weedy would have never put that in my inbox, we would not be sitting here today, right, to tell this story.
Really?
But Martha said that, and I was a first-year English language learner teacher in the Anchorage School District, my very first year, and I was getting my booty kicked as a teacher. Like, I was overwhelmed with my responsibilities as a teacher. So I just said, Martha, chill just for a minute. Let me get the school year over. The school year came to an end in end of May of 24. Then my beautiful little daughter, Anisha, she was, 6 at the time. We went on a road trip right when school got out to Fairbanks, Alaska, to see my buddy Sam, who I started the company with. He has a cabin out of milepost 16 on Chena Hot Springs Road. He's like an Alaskan badass. He built his own cabin. He grew up in North Pole.
Off the grid?
Not necessarily off the grid, but just out there.
Yeah.
And he's just awesome.
Yeah, rustic. Anyway. Yeah. He's off the grid, and then there's rustic.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, there's an outhouse at his place. It's a dry cabin.
All right. So there we go. That's rustic. Yeah. And you got to poop in a bucket.
Yeah.
So for those out there, a dry cabin means they don't have running water. So that means you have to poop in a bucket.
So I was out there, and we're
honey bucket, they call them.
Honey bucket. Yeah.
It's much nicer than a poop bucket, but yeah. So you guys are out there.
We're just hanging out. Yeah, Fairbanks is beautiful in June.
Hanging out with a bucket.
It was 80, 85 degrees. The sun was out. And by all good luck in the world, there was a dog sled just sitting out behind the barn at Sam Barney's house on Chena Hot Springs Road. And I took a picture of it, and I sent it to Martha Owidi in Nairobi, Kenya. And I was like, Martha, do you guys want to build a dog sled at your school? Now, at this point, I really don't know much of anything about Nairobi, Kenya. I don't know anything about her kids. I only know a little bit about Martha Owidi, whatever that is. But in the end,
it was just fun. It was like, hey, saw a dog sled and sent it to you.
Yeah, so let's see.
So Brad has a lot of stuff here. So
Brad came here today with amazing pictures.
So right here, if you can see it on the camera, this is the very first Iditarod dog sled that was ever created in the beautiful country of Kenya. This picture was sent to me, in June of 2024. And as we see, there's an Iditarod logo.
Yeah.
And this actual sign, can you see it right there? It says, "Our world is better when we work together." That's actually a poster that's hanging in the Anchorage School District administrative building on Northern Lights in the ELL department window. When I would go to trainings as a teacher there, I just took a picture of it. I was like, wow, that's totally badass. And then I end up sending it to kids in Kenya. And look at that. They painted it right there. I mean, look at those kids. Are they the coolest kids you've ever met in the whole world, bro? I mean, look at that.
So needless to say, you were excited.
It's amazing.
That's like an understatement, right?
Yeah.
So that photo came into my inbox, I don't know, like June-ish of 24. I took that photo, and the very first photo they ever sent to me was just of a handle of a sled and then a few pieces of like wood, like this thin wood on the ground on a dirt floor. Anyway, from these photos, I started putting them out, like June-ish. This would have been June of 24. And I just said, my very first post, I said, are there any dog mushers that I can get connected to? This cool thing's going on in Africa, and I need to hook them up with some dog mushers that can help them build a sled. And I've never run a dog team. I don't even know how to put a hammer into a nail or anything. Like I'm not a
You're not a crafty man.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Like my life, I've been doing other things. So
saving the world. I've just been saving the world.
Basically.
I can't build anything.
But I put out that post. And what happened? Really amazing connection. A lot of people said, you should get to know Robert Sexton. He's a great dog musher in Anchorage. Nice guy. He takes kids with disabilities out on rides and such over the summer, this and that. Eventually, I found Mr. Sexton, and I introduced him to Martha Owiti in Nairobi, Kenya, and they became pals during the summer of 24. And I don't really know what they were talking about or what was going on, but my guess is that Mr. Sexton was advising on how to build a dog sled to kids in Africa. But in the end, it was incredible because he mailed a box of his old dog harnesses to Kenya, and they probably arrived maybe 10-ish months ago or so. And Martha sent me a picture, and it was a big pile of, it looked like brown snakes, to be honest with you. I was like, what is that in your house, Martha? And she's like, look, it's the
dog harnesses.
The dog harnesses, bro, from Robert Sexton. I was like, wow. So anyway, that happened, and then the first time I think I got interviewed was last August on a local TV station, and a man named Eberhard Gruner saw the article on TV, and he called me the next day, and he's like, are you Brad that's working with a bunch of kids to get them to go to Idaho? I was like, yes, sir. And it turns out Mr. Gruner is a world-famous photographer that did wildlife photography in Kenya and in Alaska for years.
He's been to both. Wow, okay.
He is like the king of the world, basically. But he became such a beautiful friend and always wanted to meet me for coffee and give me all this advice and this and that and everything. And he's published books. His last book he published was titled like Africa, Alaska Safari, and it was filled like hundreds of pages.
Kind of comparing both?
Yeah. And it was absolutely incredible. It was so beautiful. Anyway, I got a copy of that. I mailed it to my dad as a special gift for my dad and such. So all this is happening, right? And all this energy is going on and on and on and all these things kind of through the summer and into the fall last year. And I believe it was a gal named Beth Leonard from Anchorage reached out to one of my Facebook posts that says, Brad, there's a hockey team in Nairobi called the Kenyan Ice Lions. You should probably reach out to those guys.
That would be the last place I would think there would be a hockey team because where do you find ice in
Kenya?
In Kenya, where do you?
Well, so now
other than rich people's glasses of iced tea,
correct. So on that tip, right? I looked them up on Google immediately, and I sent a general email to their admin email or info or whatever it was. I said, hey, my name is Brad. I'm in Alaska. I'm working. We're doing Iditarod, this and that. And I became friends with this guy named Ali. Great human being. I just love him to death. Really nice guy. And Ali sent me a TV article that was done by a TV station in London, England on his hockey team. And it explained that the ice rink that's at the Panari Hotel in Nairobi, Kenya, is the only ice rink in all of southern and eastern Africa. So it's very, very special.
Is it a nice hotel? I mean, is it probably the nicest hotel there? I would assume.
It's a very, very nice hotel in Nairobi. Anyway, so I started going back and forth with Ali and, these things. And then it was probably November, December. We knew we had no money raised to bring any of these kids or teachers to Alaska this year. It was not going to happen.
Yeah.
And to get their visas approved was
it's
nearly
take more time.
Correct.
Like a 2-year process maybe?
Hopefully.
Or is that...
We we asked Martha herself just to go apply for a visa just on her own. And she was immediately shut down by the American Embassy in Nairobi, like immediately. I mean, these folks are from one of the poorest places on earth. And according to the research, it would say the American Embassy says, no way, you are not going to America because you're never going to come back to Africa. That's like a real thing, for people. But Eberhard and all these beautiful people that I've met since this time, they basically have said, you need to get either Mr. Sullivan or Ms. Murkowski, right? You need to get a congressperson to make a phone call to the embassy office in Nairobi to say, you need to approve these 12 visas, for March of 2026.
You need a politician in your pocket.
Like you need a bolt of lightning to come out of the sky.
Exactly, yeah.
And I don't have any sway or influence with those offices or those people. So I've kind of left that alone at this point. But
they have their phone numbers. I mean, you go to their website, there's their phone number,
correct.
Hey, reach me anytime.
Well,
maybe it's harder to get to them, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
No.
Maybe someone that's here in the podcast has an in with folks in those representatives, offices, like reach out to me and I'd love to hook that up.
And cost wise, what did you guys figure out what it costs per person to bring somebody from Kenya to Alaska and back? What was the cost?
It was probably, we never really budgeted the full thing out, but between a plane ticket and once they arrived in Alaska, like we had so many in-kind donations from restaurants, from grocery stores, from hotels, Airbnbs. It's all on our website. Like everybody's logo that was going to make an in-kind donation.
Basically just getting them here.
Yeah, it was really just getting them on Alaska soil. So we had it out there and it's on the site now that we have a goal of $25,000. And I think if we had $25,000 in the bank, we could buy plane tickets. They wanted to bring like 8 kids, 2 teachers, and then an adult caretaker. So roughly 11 folks altogether.
That's doable.
To make it here. We put out a tag of $25,000. If we could get $25,000 into our GoFundMe or Venmo or whatever it is, we'd have some momentum to kind of move that forward.
Absolutely.
But let me think, where are we at?
So hockey team.
So I started finding out about hockey.
Yeah, hockey in Kenya.
Correct. So November, December, I knew they weren't going to come this year for the 25 Iditarod. So I was like, Brad, you got to finish the mission, man. And I bought a plane ticket to Nairobi, Kenya. I woke up one morning and, if you will, I felt the spirit say, just go to Africa, Brad. You've always wanted to go to Africa. Now's your time to go. And I bought a plane ticket and I was at the Anchorage airport on February 12th or 13th of this year. And I flew to Seattle to Qatar, and then Qatar to Nairobi. And when I was at the Qatar airport, I was just kind of cruising along. Everybody said the Qatar airport's the most beautiful on earth, right? That in Singapore, they have this huge jungle that you can go and see. It's really beautiful. It's extraordinary. But I got around the corner a little bit, and there was a lady with a Nairobi sign, like, you better hustle your booty that way. And I started running through the middle of the Qatar airport. I was running.
Not a good idea.
Like a half mile.
Not a good idea to run through. I mean, is that,
I just had a great workout when I got onto this airplane between Qatar and Nairobi, Kenya, right? So off I go. And I grew up in Boise, Idaho, right? And in about 82 or 83, on a little teeny TV screen, I started listening to this song called Africa by Toto.
Oh, yeah.
We know
and that song became an incredibly pivotal and spiritual and emotional thing. And when I was about 15 minutes from arriving in Nairobi, I heard a little voice and it said, Brad, listen to that song. And I put in my little earplugs and whatever, and I listened to it. And I just started weeping like a baby. And this probably Kenyan man was sitting like 2 or 3 seats next to me. And I just started telling him my story. It's like, bro, this has been happening for 45 years. Can you believe this? Anyway, I got off the airplane and all I was told by my tour guide, right, that I'd hired to put all of my tour and everything together, he just said, go to exit 5. It was going to be a little after midnight. Go to exit 5 and one of our people will be there to take you to a hotel. I was like, okay. But I really didn't know who was going to be there to welcome me to Africa, whether it be Martha or her husband, Patrick, or whatever it would look like. And when I was coming down off the stairs off the airplane, I actually videotaped my very first 3 steps. It was on cement at the airport, but like, look, bro, you're touching Africa for the first time.
Yeah.
But I go walking around, this and that, and I just like walked through customs and got my bag and all these things. So I'm on my way path to exit 5, and way back here, I started hearing some drumming. I was like, and I thought to myself, it's like, Brad, that might be for you. And I remember
hoping it was for you.
Well, then I kept walking a few more steps and I go, bro, shut your hole. That is not for you. Just, whatever.
Was it Africa? Was it Toto's Africa?
Well, it wasn't Toto's Africa. But I got around and I got to exit 5 and there was a party waiting for me for my welcome to Africa. There were these 2 beautiful African Kenyan women in full color garb that came running up and they were singing.
What?
An African man, and I have all of this on video. That
oh my God.
He was playing a drum, and there was probably 12 to 15 people waiting for me, all like filming.
We're gonna have to get clips of that. We're gonna have to see that.
It's pretty amazing. Now, the catch is I had not slept a wink from Anchorage all the way to Nairobi. I was on a plane for about 24-ish hours. I was running through the Qatar airport, et cetera.
So a full day you were up.
I was
a little delirious.
Like delirious. And when I got there and this party was waiting, you'll see on the video, I felt very proud of myself. I'm just kind of dancing and smiling. And I was having an out-of-body experience is what it was at that moment. But the very best part, so the party kind of came to an end after 5-6 minutes. And a beautiful little girl, I was guessing she was maybe 8 to 10 years old. She came running up. And the way I tell the story is she was like a middle linebacker on the Boise State University football team. She came up and gave me a bear hug on my right hip. And she screamed, I love you at the top of her lungs. And I just go, I love you too. I don't know what else to say. And that was basically, my welcome to Africa.
Wow.
So
not bad.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. So I went and, I went to my hotel and it was so beautiful. Like the hotels were just so gorgeous and the people were so nice. And I had a huge suitcase full of Alaska souvenirs and I just started giving them out to anybody that was saying anything nice to me. I was flying. But in the end, the first 2 days, I was in Nairobi and I went to the Giraffe Manor, really famous place where they raise giraffes and you can feed giraffes. And there's a Giraffe Manor hotel in Nairobi, Kenya. You'll see, if you look it up, they have 2 to 3 stories in their hotel.
And when you wake up, a giraffe will poke into your room.
Yeah.
Pull your covers off. The giraffe.
I don't know about that part. At least you could feed them out. There's a little.
In the hotel, you just feed them.
Their neck will come right up to your room, and there's a little patio right.
So I'm not that far off. I'm not that far off. Yeah.
I looked into when I decided I was going to Kenya. I looked into there first if they had rooms available. They were totally full, and it was a little bit out of my price budget, so that was okay. Maybe another time I could actually stay there.
So cool.
Well, we went there, and I met giraffes. I went on a animal orphanage was kind of the first place, kind of like a zoo. And then I went on a safari walk in Nairobi, which was a really beautiful area.
Zoo is so much more friendlier than an animal
know.
Orphanage. That's kind of depressing.
Yeah. That is accurate.
Hey kids, you want to go to the animal orphanage? No.
Yeah.
But it's a zoo. Just
pretty basically.
It's got a sad name as orphanage on it. All right.
Well, and then we, it was really nice because I had a lovely tour guide for my first couple of days, this young man named Che, and we went on safari walk. He was friends with these guys that worked there. So he got me hooked up to go and feed a mama lion, like maybe it was chicken or some kind of meat. I don't know what it was.
That's a hookup. That's a hookup right there. Yeah.
And they had like 2 or 3 guides there that were allowing me to do this. And Che's like, Brad, you need to be quiet about this because we don't let everyone do this. He was like real hush about it.
It's illegal or something?
Maybe not illegal, but I was just like a VIP guest maybe. Okay. And I gave each of them a $20 tip. He's like, you better have a tip for those guys. You need to treat them right. But I turned around and I took like 5 steps away and I just went, did I just feed a lion? Like at the top of my lungs. And they're just like, shut up, dude. Like, chill. But it was a total out of body experience.
Brad the spaz.
Yeah, pretty much. Luckily, there was one family like 30 feet to my right with a couple little kids, but there's nobody else around there. They were like, dude, you need to chill out. So just shut your mouth.
Don't ever take you anywhere that's going to get you excited.
Correct. Yes, sir.
You gotta be quiet.
Yes, sir. I am working on my boundary issues right now as we speak.
That is awesome.
Yes,
seriously, though.
So you're there. You get to meet the kids, right?
Yep.
You go to the school. What's your first impression when you actually get to see the third world part of where they go to school?
Well, I'd gone on safari a couple of days to Amboseli National Park. I hung out with elephants, giraffes, like the real deal.
You made that clear, Brad. Yes, okay. You hung out with some awesome animals.
Coming back, it was February 18th, and I actually went to the Sheep Education Center. And I met the kids and the admin at the school and these things, and it was just absolutely overwhelming. I mean, I was bombarded with high fives and hugs and young girls just coming up next to me saying, "You've already made our dreams come true."
Wow.
And I just was like, "I got to get you to Alaska. Then my dream will be true." So that happened at the school. I went and I saw their sled and I saw their harnesses, and they have some German shepherds that they want to train to be on a dog team. But these dogs are really hot and they're panting, and they didn't really want to be pulling no dog sled.
You don't see German shepherds on a sled team, no. Yeah.
So then afterwards, we were at the school, and then we went to the Hope Community Center, which is the community center where the kids make these bracelets, right?
Yeah, some beautiful bracelets here, yeah.
So these bracelets actually have a really beautiful story. Before I ever went to Kenya, back like in November, December or so, the school administrator named Josephine of Sheep Education Center, right here, she mailed me about 110 or 120 of these bracelets. So they have Kenya on one side, and then they were made with an Alaska flag, and I don't have any.
Oh, wow.
Or they were made with an or the U.S. flag, or an Alaska flag. So they're really beautiful. And in the end, I took 15 of these bracelets, and I mailed them to dog mushers that were signed up to be on the 25 Iditarod. And I sent a whole story, like a press release.
So they knew where it was coming from, what the story was about it.
Bracelets and on and on. Because I wanted to try to engage with mushers, the best any way that I could at that point. So those kind of were given out. I didn't sell any of them. This was intended to raise money for Kenya, and I didn't sell any of them. I just gave them out as love and good karma gifts to people that I cared about and that meant the whole world to me. And
it tells the story a little bit more too.
Yeah. So that all happened, but then when I went to Kenya and I came back in February,
$20 right there. So get your wallet out there.
That's what I thought.
$20,
like a good price.
Yeah.
Then I came back with about 200 of these. So these are just the Kenya, of course, and the Kenyan flag. And then when I came back from Kenya, I said, "Brad, you got to finish the mission, right?" So I bought a plane ticket to Nome, Alaska. I was going to show up, I don't know what it was, like the 9th or 10th or so, right? Kind of maybe a day or two before the mushers were going to cross the finish line. And I didn't have anything in Nome lined up. I didn't have a place to stay lined up or nothing. I just got on the plane with my
Luckily, there's
bag.
a lot of hotels in Nome. So
well, of course.
For you out there are luckily, hotels in Nome.
The gal sitting next to me on the Nome airplane was like, vagabonds like you go to Old St. Joe's Church. More than likely, you could probably crash on the floor there or something like that. There's a cab in Nome, Alaska that for $10 will take you anywhere you want to go. So I went to this church. In the end, I was able to find accommodations in Nome, Alaska. But I was there. They had a brand new arch that was just built and launched
because the other one was destroyed, right?
Yep. I was there for that. Oh. And then I wasn't there when Jesse Holmes crossed the finish line, number one. It was like 3:30 in the morning, and I didn't make it. But I was there by like 5 in the morning, and I was there when a lot of the mushers came across the finish line. It's very ecstatic. I didn't have a chance to really chat with them about their bracelet or anything. But a lot of them said that they had at least taken their bracelet with them from Fairbanks this year, to the finish line in Nome. But over the summer, I've actually met a couple of the mushers. One was Travis Beals down in Seward. I was down in Seward doing our tour early this summer, and I reached out to him, and he shared of absolutely how meaningful it was just for himself on the race. Because the race, for one, was the longest ever, but I think they were on the Yukon River for like 400 or 500 miles.
It was a different route because of the lack of snow and winter that we had, yeah.
And Travis shared the story about how meaningful having that bracelet, either on his wrist or at least with him, like it just brought me to tears. And then it's a long, it's like all these, where are these mushers at, right? In all the pictures right here, that one of them was another musher named Calvin Daughtery, a young man, maybe 21, 22 years old. And he works in Seward as part of, was it Dan Seavey's operation that I did a ride that's down in Seward. Anyway, I made a phone call like down there this summer just to kind of check in. And it turns out that Calvin's girlfriend worked on the phones. And I'm like, hey, I went to Kenya and dog sledding, all this. And she's like, you have no idea how much that bracelet meant to Calvin.
Wow.
He had it all summer. And then
he
lost
would have thought, too.
He had it all summer and his dog ate it or something. and I don't know what happened, but I mailed 2 more bracelets with all the backstory now at this point to him. And basically, it was like, you know what, Brad? Calvin absolutely loved that bracelet. It was such a source of inspiration for him along the trail. And when he came home, my guess is probably was sharing the story with his friends and family and whoever it was. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I feel that. I pretty much, this is my special bracelet they made just for me that I pretty much wear it every single day. So
that's so cool.
So those are some really cool living testimonies, as this has evolved and really come to affect a lot of people. I mean, we have this with Jesse Holmes, right?
Let's talk about this. This is a neat thing when they actually built. Now, a third world country, they have a lot of nothing.
Correct.
And where did they get this much wood? Because that seems like something anything would be rare to have there.
Correct. And I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you at this point. I just know that the kids at the Hope Community Center in Nairobi, Kenya, built this sled from all of this love and inspiration that has come from Alaska with sledding, with Iditarod, with Jesse Holmes, like the whole works. And I see this and I was absolutely floored. Like how absolutely beautiful.
It looks great. It's well done. Yeah.
By all means.
Some great craftsmanship there.
So I got this picture. Oh boy, that was, I don't remember when exactly, maybe May or June or something, somewhere around there.
Okay, just a couple months ago. Then.
Yeah, and I sent it to Martha. And I'm like, Martha, this looks like an elf sled. If we could build these in Alaska, we could sell these and make money for you guys. Martha didn't like the idea of an elf sled. God bless that woman. She's like one of my best friends on the whole planet.
She didn't like the elf sled?
Yeah, but I like, in America, Martha, that looks like an elf sled. We could sell that at stores for kids, as a Christmas gift. So with her blessing, I would love to pursue that. I have all the wood pieces to build one of those in my garage in Yukon River, Alaska right now. So that's like our prototype, our first one.
That's great. So cool. And I just love seeing your passion. You're extremely passionate about this.
Yes, ma'am.
And generous with the ideas and all the mail all over the world. Yeah. And then getting those stories back. Like that must just feel so incredible that you're truly making an impact in countries all over the world. Like who does that?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And for me, I was a social work student at Boise State University, and I don't really remember much of my college education, to be honest with you.
Most people don't.
But one thing
I don't think you're supposed to. I don't think you're supposed to.
One thing that I was taught as a social worker was a thing called the systems theory. And I don't know who invented it or when it was, but the systems theory is a set of circles. And the very first inner circle is yourself. And as a social worker, we're taught professionally of how to create change and how to help people. Basically, that's a bottom line. And if you're really helping people, really it's like maybe a Buddhist principle or something. I'm not sure. But, you have to help yourself first. Like you have to heal your inner wounds first. And then that first circle is just yourself. And then there's another little bigger circle outside of that. And that's the very closest relationships in your life. Could be your partner, your kids, those intimate, close people. And then as each of these circles gets bigger, it's more distant people. Maybe it's distant friends and distant family. Maybe it's people that live in Alaska. But eventually that circle is the whole world. And, I didn't mean for this to happen, but look what happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at this, bro. This is just totally badass, like 100%.
All right, get the cold bucket of water. Yeah, get the taser. Get the It's Alaska taser out here. So what's I don't want to say end game, because this is not something that has an end game. This is something that keep going on. But what's the big, hey, we did it. The Super Bowl of this, Brad.
So how this has continued to grow. So me and Kenya happened, me going to Nome happened, and that was all very exciting. The kids did a Zoom with Jesse Holmes, on and all these fun things. And then Martha Awidi, through her spirit, organized a dog sled awareness party in Nairobi, the Dandora section of Nairobi, Kenya. It was on April 26th, just a couple of months ago. And over 1,000 people showed up in the crowd to learn about dog sledding and about all this amazing Alaska inspiration. Now, I don't have a flyer for that one. Can I put a plug in?
Please do.
If you go to Alaska, if you go to YouTube and find Alaska English Adventures on the Alaska English Adventures YouTube channel, there's an 8-minute video from their party on that day. And there's living testimony from a few kids that they interviewed that talk about what Iditarod and Alaska and dog sledding has meant to them over the past year and how it's made them a better student. And it's taught them to never give up on their dreams and to the value of teamwork and all these beautiful things. Now, if any listeners are out there, when you go to watch that movie on that channel, you better have a box of tissues with you because there's a likelihood you're going to bawl your eyes out because that's how absolutely beautiful, this is.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. You start doing something, you're like, okay, there's something here, and you kind of have an idea and it's like, okay, I just want to do, you never really realize. And I guess it's not meant to realize how big it can get.
Yes, sir.
Because you got to be focused with one thing and then everything kind of springs up around it. And that's really what this has done.
Yeah. And that was my very first vision with my company because I knew firsthand how absolutely inspiring and amazing Alaska was, right?
Yeah.
When I started the idea for my company, I never lived in Anchorage. It was Fairbanks, Galena, Nenana, Trapper Creek. But now, I've been a resident in the Anchorage area for 12 years, and it's the people. It is by far, hands down, 100% across the board. It is the people in Alaska that truly make Alaska so special.
That's true.
And all these tourists, they don't know that. No one ever thinks about that when they get off their airplane and they're at the Marriott and off they go on a little tour the next day.
They will say, oh, wow, everybody's so nice. They
Correct.
do mention that.
Yes,
they do mention
that a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, people here are really nice. And
they're just giving me meat. Suddenly I'm just there and I've got salmon.
Correct.
People love to give you wild game and salmon here.
Correct. So that's like my living testimony, basically, and knowing that Anchorage is one of the most diverse places in the entire country.
It truly is. Correct. Something that a lot of people don't know, that Anchorage and Alaska in general, but especially, Anchorage being the biggest city, is per capita one of the biggest diverse cities in the world.
Correct.
That's something a lot of people didn't. I didn't realize it until I had somebody on my radio show years ago that told me that. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the numbers and the demographic, like, wow, this is.
Yeah. I share that in tour buses with people to let them know. I always ask them a trivia question, like how many home languages do you think are spoken in the Anchorage School District? Like a year ago when this data came out, and it's. Last year, I think it was 112 altogether. And people in tour buses that I've worked with, they're like, 5, maybe 20, yes. And they all are giggling and
laughing. One's expecting, yeah.
And I go, bro, it was 112, and everybody just, it's that wow kind of review of what Anchorage is all about. So
this is awesome. Well, we'd love to try and help and get these kids here to experience it.
Yeah.
So
what things can people do? I mean, money is a part of it. Where can they donate and what other things can they do besides stock the senators? Or should we stock the senators?
Well, two things legally, right? That have where we're at this point. One was our huge dog sled party that happened in April, and it's been out there that we should have a tour where we get at least one dog musher of sorts to come and build a dog sled with these kids if they were to come. My hope is that we're going to do this year in September of this year. That did not work out for X, Y, and Z. So the actual dog mushing trip for these kids, it could be, let's say, March of 26 for the Idaho.
All right, so next year. So hopefully next year. Okay.
Yeah.
But also, another thing that's happened from all of this is now hockey is now exploding in Nairobi, Kenya. I went to the hockey.
That blows my mind, and I think is absolutely awesome, but blows my mind.
Well,
I wouldn't think that.
I went to the hockey practice, gave all these gifts. The Kenai Brown Bears have given a lot of gifts.
Well, they have a team, so
correct.
Kenya has a team.
Yeah, the Lions.
Correct. So I mentioned that I was invited to their practice. It's at the Panari Hotel on February 19th. Before I left, the Anchorage Wolverines donated a team jersey that the entire team autographed, plus about 15 or 20 of their white T-shirts with their logo and some little pucks maybe and hockey sticks. And this gal, Andrea Loria, that was kind of the PR lady at the time for the Wolverines, gave me these gifts, and I just praise her so much. I gave all of those to the Ice Lions, and then the Scotty Gomez Foundation here in town donated 4 black nice polo shirts. So those are the gifts I had in my suitcase that I gave to the Kenyan Ice Lions folks when I was there to their team.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of photos of their players wearing the Wolverines jersey and everything at this point. So that's all
That's so cool.
I don't want to sound like an a-hole or anything. Are they any good?
Look here.
Are they any good? Are they a good hockey team?
Well, so when I went to the practice, there were like 5-year-old little kids playing hockey, and it was a mixed bag of all kinds of different hockey people. My guess is that the primary players on the team were all like strong young men that were playing hockey, but it's a very hands-on community thing there, and they're just trying to bring people out,
so like growing from the ground up.
Correct.
Wow.
And this young man Ali was a big part of it. I don't know when they were established, but my guess is probably sometime over the past 10 years. This also is a really amazing photo that Ali had the Kenyan Ice Lions autograph this team banner, and they actually autographed one for my kids, a little teeny one. But this team banner was autographed by every member of their hockey team, and then it has been given to the Anchorage Wolverines. So that is That's somewhere. So cool. I have not heard from the Wolverines like since March, basically. But this is somewhere in the Anchorage Wolverines establishment, and I hope it's hung up, and given as a source of inspiration.
Well, that is awesome.
So cool all this hockey, amazing stuff. I made connections down in Kenai with Kenai Brown Bears. When I was up in Iditarod and Nome, I met a gentleman named Ken Hughes that plays hockey up there. He wants to go to Kenya. So all this excitement is happening.
Fairbanks, you got the Ice Dogs, and
I haven't made any connections in Fairbanks yet. But I put out a post about a week ago on Find All of the Things in Town and just said, hey, I'm looking for ice hockey people that want to go to Kenya. Right now, I have tentatively on a trip, we have 5 1-hour hockey games committed by the Kenyan Ice Lions. And then also we have 5 1-hour hockey camps on their ice rink where I'm trying to get Alaska hockey people will go over there and host a hockey camp for kids in Nairobi and Kenya, maybe anywhere in Africa that want to learn how to play hockey. Like, what a cooler thing to learn from a bunch of Alaska badasses.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
In a whole different world.
Correct.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. This is
absolutely.
Brad and I have worked on a project or two in the past, but I didn't know that you were this involved.
Yeah. It's like changing the world, bro.
It is. Yeah. It is. And it just shows you, one person can make a big difference. You've had help along the way. Don't get me wrong.
By all means.
You just did it.
Yeah.
And that is a huge, huge inspiration that one person can make a big difference. Where can people go to find more details about what you're doing? And if they want to help, if they were like, hey, I got an idea, where can they go and reach out to you and find out more about this?
Well, the best spot right now is Kenya2Iditarod.com. So Kenya, TOIDITAROD.com.
I never spell Iditarod first, the first time.
I don't think anybody does that.
I can never remember to spell it. So thank God for spell check.
But on the Kenya to Iditarod, there's a Venmo link if somebody wanted to make a donation, and there's a GoFundMe page set up. And on there it says we're looking for the $25,000 to try to get these kids to Iditarod.
Whoa! What an amazing experience that would be for them.
Oh my God!
We got to make that happen.
There on that site is a lot of good press that I've received over the past year, like some TV stories and this and that. We were trying to launch a platform called the Global Village Classroom Project, and it's a way to connect schools all over the world with a Alaska-based theme of education and such. It hasn't quite taken off yet.
It's a great idea, though.
Correct.
I know where you're going with that. That is a very good idea.
There's a link on that site where if there's teachers that are interested, they can go to and sign up on the Global Village Classroom Project, like little info sheet or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And there's a See More link on the site. Really go to the See More link. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's photos from kids all over the world that are learning about Iditarod and Alaska and stuff.
This is in Kenya. This is all over the world.
This is like a global deal. Also, at this point, with my friends in Kenya, a couple of months ago, the idea came up is trying to create a special pen pal project this school year that would combine, it would start with kids in Kenya. Right now we have Bessie's School, Martha's School, and the Hope Community Center. So 3 children establishments.
How many kids is that, do you think, in Kenya?
Well, at Bessie's School, she had 3,000 students in her school total. And
she's one teacher?
Well, I mean, it's a big school.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. But then at Sheep Education Center, I think there's about 150 kids. And then at the Hope Center, I don't know exactly how many kids go there for services.
But it's a good amount of kids.
Sure.
So we're looking at a few thousand kids. All right.
But we're putting it out there to try to create in a sense, we're trying to maybe start an Iditarod race in Africa. And the idea has come out that we started with our 3 primary connection schools in Kenya, and that we want to try to connect them to schools that are all along the villages in the Iditarod Trail, from Nome, tentatively, all the way down to Willow. I mean, it could be Anchorage as well, and even Eagle River. But the focus was trying to connect with these communities in these, this is like the Iditarod Trail, but all of these, from Nome all the way down to Willow. And that how the program would work is that when a teacher signs up and wants to do it, that Alaska kids would be committed to writing 3 letters. The kids in the international school would be committed to writing 3 letters. And it would all go from September until March, I think it's 7th, is the kickoff of the Iditarod sled dog race in Anchorage, Alaska. So September to March, kids in Alaska write 3 letters. These kids write 3 letters. But the catch is every single letter has to be handwritten with a pencil or a pen on an old-fashioned piece of paper.
I like that. The old school stuff. Yes.
The minimum requirement is that the first batch of letters has to be postal mailed to your partner school. Now, a lot of schools all over the world cannot afford to do that. It's like a big old chunk out of the teacher's paycheck. But knowing our modern technologies, that we want to do at least one letter. Correct.
So you say, oh, wow.
But like for the second or third or further letters, right, kids could write their letters and they could either be scanned in and emailed to their teacher. They could be picture taken of their letters. They could be sent over Facebook. So we can utilize modern technology to speed up that communication process.
Who would think that, kids in other countries can't afford a pencil and paper, but that is a thing.
It is very, very true. Very true.
Technology here can make this possible.
And as an English language learner teacher, the research shows us that when a student writes a letter with a pen or a pencil on a piece of paper, that it is 100 times better cognitively for their brain than anything they might do on a phone, an iPad, etc., any form of modern technology.
Yeah, I've heard that. You write it down, you have a better chance of remembering it. Yeah.
So that's kind of a push. But also what's really neat along this line, like I met a teacher named Letty where was Letty? She's in Italy. Boy, 3-4 years ago. And all of her kids wrote a handwritten letter, and then they all drew a self-portrait of themselves in colored pencil. And it was like 10 letters that I hooked up with a teacher in Anchorage. And I was like, wow, look at that, bro. That is so cool right there. And a couple of years ago, I met a teacher in Uzbekistan in Eastern Europe, and she never offered a postal mailing address. But she said, Brad, can you write a postcard to all my kids? And I don't know what it was, like 30, 60 kids or something. So I wrote every single one of them their own postcard. And then I took pictures of the written side, right? And then I take a picture of the pretty Alaska side, and I sent all of it to her, more than likely over Facebook. She then printed out the picture and the written part, cut them out, glued them together, and then her kids have
they got a real postcard.
Yeah, they got an Alaska postcard.
That's how
That
funny.
is cool. I like that some of this old school stuff still isn't,
And like my buddy
still
Sam,
cool and happening.
2 years ago, his kids in Fairbanks, Alaska, were learning about Socrates, what Plato and Aristotle, the Greek philosophers.
Love Socrates.
So I hooked their kids up with a really amazing teacher named Georgia in Valos, Greece. She is amazing. Like, she's a world-class teacher. So they had a pen pal exchange, and the kids in Fairbanks were exploding. Like, we had friends in Greece. This is totally badass.
Totally cool.
Wow.
But then I'm talking to Georgia, and Georgia's like, Brad, my kids don't learn about those guys until middle school. They're like 6th graders, I think, that year. And I was like, don't tell Sam that. We don't want to tell Fairbanks. You guys don't know anything about those. So that was just kind of funny.
That's awesome.
Well, you're bringing people together. You're bringing countries and worlds and different worlds together.
Yeah.
Again, what's the website they can reach out to?
So what I'd recommend, Kenya to Iditarod.com. Global Village Classroom Project there. If you want to make a donation, Venmo, GoFundMe is there. There's a lot of cool stuff all about this. It's focused on Kenya, of course, but of all these kids around the world that are doing this amazing work, that's kind of a real hub for it. But also, if you go to Alaska English Adventures YouTube channel, the highlight of the YouTube channel is that 8-minute video from our friends in Kenya when they had their dog sled party on April 26th. Like, it is just awesome to watch. There's a bunch of other older videos and stuff on there, but I'm not like a big YouTuber or anything. So I really recommend for people to go there. Mm-hmm. And then I do a lot of communicating on WhatsApp with all my international people all over the world. So my number is 907-310-5939. And if you're in Alaska, you want to reach out and give me a call, I would so much rather talk to you than email you or text you.
Build a relationship.
Correct.
Yeah. What's your chat room handle? Is it Alaska English guy at something?
Boy,
something? I don't know.
I don't even have a chat handle, to be honest with you, for any of that
Are there
stuff.
chat handles? I just made that up.
know.
I've never been in a chat room. I'm too afraid to be in a chat room. Yeah, I'm too scared to end up in somebody's kitchen. This has been great. How about that way to end the podcast, huh? Suddenly Chris Hansen comes out, just very weird.
Yeah.
This is just awesome. Again, what a great thing that you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on and enjoying, sharing your story, and not just sharing it, but with all the enthusiasm that this is something that is obviously only going to get bigger and bigger.
I think so. And I think the level, of hope and joy, like you'll see the story from those kids, right? On that 8-minute video from Nairobi. I wrote the questions. I can't lie about that. But it was like, how does this change your life? Learning about all of this stuff over the past year is a little better than that. And then one question was, how has this improved you as a student over the past year? And like, game on, bro. Like 100, like puck on, right? Mush on. Like it is,
on,
you know what I'm saying? Like it is for real. And these kids, it's just like change their life forever. And I don't know, being a social worker and a guy that loves to help people and all that, and I have a big, big heart. It's like, I got to raise money for them. One, to get them to Alaska, right? That's the kind of the goal. But, they need to feed themselves, and they need to buy pencils.
They need to have a good quality of life.
Correct.
Yeah.
They need to buy pencils and books, for school, for those kind of things. So if people wanted to really help, if they wanted to donate any kind of school supply, those would be greatly accepted. Whether they're in a suitcase that goes to Kenya or in boxes we would mail.
Yeah.
We're always looking for donations of books, if possible. If I can highlight this was a donation of Alaska books from the Bright Lights Book Project out of Palmer, Alaska. And it's a really, really awesome nonprofit. Their mission was they collect books from like libraries and universities all over the place, but their mission was to give out books around really remote villages in Alaska. That's why they started. And then I met them a couple of summers ago, Allie and Pete, and they donated like 25 to 30 of these books that were then in my suitcase that then went to Alaska. So kids are actually reading books, if you can believe that.
That's
besides
great.
being on their iPad to learn about. Look at that right there, bro. I mean, they're learning right there. That book is all about.
Not everybody has an iPad.
Cool.
That is
Correct.
so cool. That is awesome.
If there's books that you want to end up over there, please get a hold of me. If you have school supplies you want to donate, if you want to donate money to help them get to Alaska, like make a donation. If you want to help them, like mail books of stuff to them, like whether they're books or pencils and paper. I have no idea what it costs to mail, but it takes a long time. It takes like 2 to 3 months probably to get there. But I'm guessing $60-$80 a box-ish. That's just a guess, probably to get to that part of the world. And then if folks are interested in going to Kenya, if you're in the hockey world to play hockey, and be a part of that experience, I mean, we're at ground zero right now at that point. We're looking at, December 5th to the 18th of 2026 is when we're putting that into motion. I have his team's call at 9:30 tonight with the general manager of the hotel. So,
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
In Nairobi.
That's important. That's
so
going to be
like
great.
Game on right now at this point.
So and hockey players can be woken up by giraffes.
Yeah.
Giraffe making you a little coffee there, a little Keurig.
Yes. You're feeling it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll go play hockey in Nairobi, and there's a lot of amazing things in Nairobi, Kenya by itself, but we'll go on safari for a couple of days and hopefully go feed some lions, and there'll be giraffes and there'll be zebras.
You're in the know. You got it.
And I got game on, man. Like I got all of that in my phone ready to go.
That is awesome. Man, Brad, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
you.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, totally.